Mic check here to doing coverage on Reid Carruthers versus Jacques Gauthier. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leduc, Alberta. Uh, second end shaping up. Jacques Gauthier just not getting enough curl there. Again, the attempt on the hit by the Carruthers team, just not quite enough there. Ends up removing the guards and now leaving Team Gauthier the free opportunity to draw around this center guard again and sit 3. I think this is an opportunity that you don't want to miss if you're Jacques Gauthier. So he's taking the time to talk to his team about this, figure out exactly where they want to put this rock. Of course, if you end up freezing that yellow stone top of the 8-foot, and Reid Carruthers does make the in-off the side, you may choke off your own ability to remove it. Looked like they were talking for a little bit about possibly tapping this stone a bit more into the 4-foot, rolling to the open side, and that gives them sort of 2 outs, 2 rocks to come in off of, although this one really light by Sterling Middleton if that was the call. Sweepers working on it hard. Jacques Gauthier coming out to help. And it's just not going to get there. Coming up well light. And now if you're Reid Carruthers, you're looking at these 2 yellow stones in the rings, seeing if there's a double there. Of course, if there's anybody that can throw that much weight, it's Jason Gunlickson. Renowned for his up-weight hitting ability. And Reid Carruthers going to try and utilize that to remove the 2 yellow stones. If you can ever hit this perfect, you sit full 8, maybe biting top of the 4-foot, buried around a number of center guards would be a very good position to be in if you're Reid Carruthers looking for a steal. Trying to get some last-minute curl here, and just not quite enough. We'll roll underneath that stone in the 8-foot. Another missed opportunity by the Carruthers team. There's been a number of free shots left on both sides here, and no one has really been able to capitalize yet. So another opportunity here for Jacques Gauthier. Can he figure out a good spot to put this stone? Of course, if you think about it, as you look at the overhead, the left side of the sheet is sort of all Gauthier. There's no real way in there if you're Reid Carruthers. So trying to figure out if they can cut down the other side of this. Talked about going top 12, just maybe buried half around that tight red guard. Would be a very good spot if you can make it, but you have to be very careful with the hitting ability of this Carruthers team. If you slip a little bit deep, you could leave a run back double to allow them to get out of this end. Second shot by Sterling Middleton, trying to make that adjustment after he came up well short on his first one. And comes up a little light again, just not able to get it there. Definitely going to need to make the adjustment to what they're seeing by the speed. One of the good things that did come out of that shot is it still does choke off the in-turn draw for the Carruthers team. If they wanted to play that draw to the 4-foot to sit shot, it is there. But again, they may have to go out slightly wider than they've seen so far this weekend, and it would be a bit of a guess on the weight. Other option is you could angle run that red guard back onto the shot yellow stone. Maybe a bit more difficult, but possibly the better make if you could choose any shot to make perfectly. He's taking a long look at it now. Of course, as we said, the winner of this game will play in an A-side final against the winner of Dunham and Epping for a spot in the playoffs. The loser of this game will drop down to the B-side, and they will meet up with the winner of Kyler Clybrink and Michael Brunner tomorrow morning. Another Clybrink and Brunner playing right now on one of the other sheets. All 6 games here are being streamed on the Curling Zone YouTube channel as part of the Curling Stadium broadcast. So if you ever get tired of my voice, you can switch over to one of the other matches, and come back when you're ready for more of this action. But right now, a big shot coming up by Reid Carruthers. Now is not the time to tune away. If he can make this really good, put Jacques Gauthier in a difficult spot. First stone coming down the sheet here. Connor Negevin trying to get some curl, and just not going to find it. Just removes that red stone. Does open up the middle of the sheet here. Jacques Gauthier may be able to sink a draw around those 2 center guards. If he can get to the nose of that yellow, Reid Carruthers is going to be in a lot of trouble facing 2 with his last. And this should be a spot that they are a bit more confident with. Of course, going down the center of the sheet this early when it might not quite be broken down yet, maybe a little bit slower, but I think this is probably going to be a better chance at a guess than those wide draws they were throwing earlier. And if it was Jacques who threw the draw to the button for hammer, as I assume it would be, you'd imagine he's going to be pretty close on this. First draw coming here in the second end by Jacques Gauthier, assisted by Jason Ginter on the left, Alex Horvath on the right, trying to sink this in-turn draw to second shot stone in the top of the 8-foot. Need to wait a little bit for the line. This really needs to start curling soon. Sweepers don't seem to hate the wait. Alex Horvath on it now to try and get a little bit of finish. Gets it past that corner guard. But again, just getting caught a little bit. Not quite getting the amount of finishes they were looking for. Seems like they might have left a double here for Reid to get out of this. Taking a long look at it, talking with Jason. I think if it's there, you got to take a play on it. I think the only question right now is whether you can get to the nose. I'm pretty sure you can make the over-the-top double. You likely lose the shooter in that case, although that would be coming very close to that slight corner guard as well. I think if you could get up to nose, or pretty close to, you might be able to make the double and roll in to just bite the rings behind that tight corner guard. I think that's the best option, and he's taking a long look at it to see if that's possible. So final rock here for Reid Carruthers. Needing to make the double to escape out of this without giving up 2. But unfortunately just straight jams it in the 8-foot. It'll be the same shot here for Jacques Gauthier now to score his second point. Tightens up the broom a little bit. He doesn't want to contest with that tight corner guard too much. I don't think the split is there. Sterling's taking a little bit of a look at it, but with how quickly Jacques slid down to the other end of the ice, I don't think he's necessarily interested in taking on that risk. Of course, it's a good thing for Sterling to keep in mind if they are ever calling a little bit heavy, he may be able to play an audible, try and touch that stone. He's going to come down, take another look at it. Here, Sterling might have seen something that Jacques did not. Going to take a look at this split. It's very difficult. I think if it was about a rock closer to the rings, you might see him try to take it on. But with where it is right now, what you don't want is try and play it too cute. You end up sort of just touching the guard and getting neither of them in the rings, and you give up your opportunity for two. Being down a point here, 2 points is huge. Much better than one, given the scenario. So I think they're just going to play the straight draw. Final rock here in the second end for Jacques Gauthier, looking to grab any piece of the paint for 2 points in the lead. Sweepers on it hard now. Looks like they like it, not too panicked. And it will get right down to the face of that shot stone, score his 2 points. He'll take a 2-1 lead over Reid Carruthers. We'll break slightly for commercial here, and I'll see you when we get back. And welcome back to Leduc, Alberta. We pick up play here in the third. Sides, that last end. Both teams having opportunities to sort of save what they wanted to get out of that end. Neither really being able to capitalize, but Jacques Gauthier able to get a stone in a good spot early in the end, and that ended up being his first point. Reid Carruthers wasn't able to make any sort of peels to get himself out of it. So it ended up being an open draw. Jacques Gauthier does not miss that one, scores his 2 points to take a 1 point lead here into the third end. Lead for Reid Carruthers is Connor Negevin, being asked to draw around this center guard. Of course, both of these squads new. Many of the players have played, parts of the teams have played together in years past, but with the new Olympic quadrennial starting, everyone's sort of shuffling around, ending up in new spots. And we're going to see some very good combinations here. This Jacques Gauthier team, the 3 players other than Jacques, would be known as the Tyler Tardy team in years past. All these players have played with Tyler in the past couple of years. Tyler, of course, getting the call to Kevin Cooey. And so they gave a call to Jacques out of Manitoba and got him to move over to the Western Province out of BC. Alex Horvath not quite being able to get around that stone in the top of the 8 foot, just rubs and rolls off into the open. Jacques himself moving from a world championship team, winning the World Juniors in 2020, I believe. Reid Carruthers, of course, many would recognize Reid and Derek from the Mike McEwen squad of the last 4 years. And Jason and Connor. Jason was skipping his own team with Connor Negevin at lead, and they come over to join Reid to finish up this Manitoba squad. They're able to remove that stone, just roll out into the open. Jacques waiting no time, asking Jason to attempt to make this run back. Ideally, you'd love to hit this pretty close to nose, I think, as close to making the run back double. Even if you just run it back into that red and try to roll the ran stone towards that other one on the side of the sheet, I'd like to at least get one of the reds removed here. Sweeper's a bit hesitant early, looks very close. Oh, maybe just slightly getting caught in between. Slightly over curled for making the run double. Of course, I think they would have accepted making the straight run back stick, sitting shot behind the guard. Just rolls out into the open, but still a good result. Like I said, rolls towards that stone at the side of the sheet. Now Reid will attempt to play out the rest of this end, keeping his stones separated. Well, Jacques will try to make some precise hit and rolls to good spots, try to group up the stones so at some point he could make a double. The Sweeper's having to work on this one hard. Derek Samagalski, maybe possibly a little bit light, got it going, but ends up hitting it perfect. Rolls to a great spot on the other side of the rings. Really no double opportunities there, so Jason Ginter will attempt to hit and roll behind this center guard. You have multiple options here. You can hit and roll behind the center, which would be great if you could stay buried. The other option is if you end up rolling a little bit far into the back of the 8-foot on the other side where you're still shot, puts it in a very difficult spot for Reid where he won't be able to really roll somewhere where he won't leave a double. Seems like the first call was to attempt to make this roll behind the center guard. Keepers taking their time here now. Alex Horvath gets on the broom, trying to hold it straight, keep it behind that guard. And again, we'll roll just too far. Caught in between again. If that rolls about a foot further, granted, this is still a very difficult spot for Reid. Not an easy spot where you would like to roll to. Of course, because it's behind the T line, if you nose, it's a pretty easy half rock double for Jacques Gauthier's team. If you roll either direction, you're probably leaving some kind of double somewhere, you would imagine. Now, you can make it very difficult to where Jacques may not go for a straight double. You may force him to instead play just a hit and roll somewhere. Ends up pretty much just nosing that stone. So as I said, this is just about a half or 2/3 of a rock to make the double. Tolerance here is to always, I think, hit this a little bit thick. You always have the option of rolling on top of that other red stone, which would pretty much get the job done as well. A big weight here coming from Sterling Middleton with the intern. Maybe getting it a little bit wide out of his hand and rolls out. That's really not what you want to see. You had to keep that stone around somewhere and force Reid to deal with it. Now, a free opportunity, basically just split the rings, and it's going to be very difficult for the Gauthier team to not give up a 2. first rock here by Jason Gunlickson, attempting to split the rings. Would like this even with the other stone, splitting the T-line. Likely just full 8, or if you touch a piece of the 12, that's likely a great spot as well. Sweeper's staying close, but not doing too much work here. You might see this one slip a little bit too far. And it does, but in a pretty good spot. Double might be there if you can throw enough weight at it, but don't want to throw so much weight that if you don't make it, you're going to roll out. So I think a very smart call here by Jacques, attempting to make the hit and roll in behind, but again, just a bit over curls, rolls underneath the other red stone, rolls right out, and just gives it once again the opportunity here to Reid Carruthers to split the rings and almost more or less guarantee a 2 here if they can put it in a good spot. Jason Gunlickson taking a second crack at this draw to the other side. This one is definitely a little bit heavy. Have enough to slip through. Looks like it certainly did. It is difficult to tell from the overhead camera whether or not that's still biting, but with how quickly everyone walked away from it, a little bit of disgust from the Carruthers team. Looks like it probably just slipped through the ring, so big missed opportunity there by Jason Gunlickson to really set up what could be considered more or less a free 2 for the Carruthers squad. Now opens the door for Jacques Gauthier to keep things in check. Does have to be a little bit careful. Definitely just need to make sure you stick around the rings here. There isn't necessarily a bad spot to roll to. I've seen this spot a couple times now this end, so you'd expect he knows how he wants to throw it. Makes the hit, sticks around in the 8-foot, so Reid will have to deal with it. And you'll likely see if Jacques has an open hit at this next stone. He'll play pretty aggressive to try and roll behind that center guard. Whether he makes the roll or not, even it's just an open peel for Reid that he's going to make most of the time. So even if you roll out, you're probably not too worried in that situation, but still work to be done here for Reid Carruthers. Needs to remove this yellow stone. Likely don't want to roll behind that center guard. If you do, you might see Jacques Gauthier freeze to it and suddenly you're forced out of nowhere. So first rock here in the third end, coming from Reid Carruthers. Open hit, sweepers seem to like it. I'm sure they'd like to roll a little bit to the outside to keep Jacques away from that center guard. Ends up making the hit, the slight roll. So now you'll see Jacques play pretty aggressive to try and make this roll around the center to try and get his force. Final stone here from Jacques Gauthier, attempting to make the roll now. Trying to get a little bit extra curl out of it, but just not able to do so. Will nose the stone, stick around the rings, and it's an open blank opportunity here for Reid Carruthers. Really wasting no time, not much to think about on this shot, just wants to remove this stone, roll out of play, take the blank, move on to the next end and try and get their 2 there. But thinking back to that shot, I'm sure Jason Gunlickson would want it back. Was a free opportunity. Now you still needed to put it in a decent spot, but even if you put it anywhere in the paint, it's difficult for Jacques. He's going to have to come up with a couple good shots to get out of it. Unfortunately, Jason just slips through, but now's the big chance to make sure you don't let anything get too out of the way. Blank attempt coming here by Reid Carruthers. Sweepers on it early, trying to hold it to make sure they roll out, and they will. Might take a quick look at that other stone. Nope, they will kick it away, so it will be a blank end. Reid Carruthers will carry the hammer on to the 4th, down 2-1 to Jacques Gauthier. And we are back here in the 4th end of play, coming to you from the Leduc Recreation Center in Leduc, Alberta. The Alberta Curling Series major men's event here. All weekend, the playoffs conclude on Monday. For right now, these two teams trying to earn their way into an A final and earn that spot to put a chance into the playoffs on the line. Jacques Gauthier here with a 2-1 lead against Reid Carruthers. Reid Carruthers having the hammer after blanking that last end, but definitely letting the opportunity for 2 slip away on Weiss's stones. That's how experienced those 4 players are. Wouldn't imagine it's going to phase them all that much. Two very good stones by Alex Horvath, drawing one into the top of the 4-foot, following it up with a center guard that maybe ends up a little bit too high. It does leave the opportunity here for the Carruthers team to try and come around, but it'll just over curl. Wreck on the guard. I think they were trying to play maybe hack weight and just move that stone off of the forefoot. Looks like maybe got a little bit fortunate that that red rock actually did stick around in the ring. So even though it's way out there and only just biting, Jacques sort of has it in the back of his mind as a possible counter for later. So he's going to choose to deal with this stone right now. Definitely don't have to. You could possibly throw up another center guard, but you would likely see the Carruthers team attempt to make the double, the run back double. And if they are successful, then you found yourself in sort of a tough spot with Reid sitting one way over on the wings that you'd then probably have to hit, give him the opportunity to draw around the corners. So going to take the opportunity to remove this stone right now with Jason Ginter's first rock here in the fourth end. Alex Horvath sweeping hard on this to try and hold it. You want to stick around. My apologies, that was Sterling Middleton sweeping. Either way, is able to hold it. Sticks around in the back of the 12-foot for second shot, but not necessarily a rock that Reid is all that worried about. Have a couple of options, really three options, I guess. You could draw around either one of the guards as for two options. Could deal with this rock in the top of the forefoot as well, possibly try and play a hit and roll behind one of the corners. It is a very good rock, and you maybe are a little bit worried about Jacques just straight up guarding it if you ever didn't get shot. So going to take on the chance to deal with this stone right now, roll behind one of the corner guards. Removes the stone, but sticks right on the nose. Sitting shot stone. Jacques will call for the removal. Looks like he wants to maybe roll, not necessarily right behind this red stone, but you definitely don't want to risk too much of jamming this on that stone in the back of the 8-foot. So calling for a slight roll towards that corner. Likely if you roll right behind the guard, you'll see Reid try and come down and freeze to it. So wants to keep this as far away as possible so that you don't leave the hit and roll, but still remove this stone without jamming. Sterling Middleton on the sweep here. Looks like they seem to like the line. Do hit it, get it to a slight roll, and probably rolls to a really good spot. We don't quite have a straight on angle down the sheet here, so it's difficult to tell, but looks like they might have gotten it about half buried, which is a very good spot. It chokes off the straight path around the guard. As I said, if you roll that a little bit further, you probably leave some kind of a freeze for the Carruthers team, but as is, it's in a pretty good spot. Reid's going to try and deal with this, play a really delicate hack or backline draw, try to get as far to the inside as you can to hopefully roll behind the corner. Even if you don't push it out, if you at least move it behind the tee line and get behind that guard, you'll always get the opportunity to probably get rid of it later. This one definitely needs some throwing to do. Maybe it was just a little bit more buried than I thought. They are able to bump it, though, to get shot stone. So they roll perhaps a touch into the open, so there might be the opportunity for Jacques to remove that stone, but to do so, likely would need to push it straight through that tight hole between the two yellow stones. Definitely makeable, but a little bit trickier than maybe they would have liked to be throwing. Skill level of this team, it's definitely a makeable shot, but just need to be very careful that you're throwing the right weight for what the line that Jacques is calling so that you can hit it right on the right spot. That kind of ice, probably throwing something a little bit lighter, maybe a nice hack or board weight hit. first stone here by Sterling Middleton in the fourth end of play. Looking to remove this red stone through the uprights, really, between his two yellows. Sweepers on this early. It's possible he might have just pinched the broom a little bit. Alex Horvath working hard to try and hold this, and they just won't. Picks the guard, but where does this yellow stone roll to? Does it get behind that other yellow guard? Makes one last turn at the end that I think it's mostly in the open. Might be tricky for Reid Carruthers to get to the inside of this to get behind the corner, so he has to be careful that he doesn't roll to a spot that leaves a double, easy double for Jacques Gauthier. Likely not the worst outcome if you were Sterling Middleton throwing that stone. You at least move that corner guard out of the way so you can remove that red stone a lot easier if, and this is maybe a big if you get another chance at it. I'm sure Reid would like to make a very good shot here to try and keep the pressure on and not allow them to have any easy outs. First rock here for Jason Gunlickson, attempting a nice lightweight hit and roll behind the corner guard. Sweepers staying close early. Looks like he was very close to the broom. Getting a couple licks in. They seem to like it. Now bring Connor Negevin on to get some last little bit of curl. And a very good shot there by Jason. Getting just a slight roll. That probably is enough to get it mostly buried. Looks like it might be a little bit open. Jacques wasting no time really calling the hit and roll off this stone. Definitely the right call. You don't want to play around too much with that red stone on the other side where you have the chance of jamming them and leaving the red stones around. So if you can remove this rock, you're likely always rolling towards that pile on the other side. Give you the opportunity to possibly group up some stones and make a double later. Alex Horvath got on it for a little licks, but now Jason going hard, trying to hold this stone to keep the roll. Hits it very close to nose. Likely rolls just enough to sit shot stone. You do have to be a little bit careful here if you Reid. I think if you just nose that rock they just threw, you're probably not second shot. It might even be fourth shot and would give Jacques the opportunity to remove that red stone. But the only real way to roll to sit to is to roll towards that other red rock, which likely just sets up an easy double. Couldn't exactly see what the call here was. Likely not throwing too much weight at it though. Might be able to get away if you roll behind that yellow corner again. Even if you're not sitting two, even if you're fourth shot, Jacques has to be careful hitting that other red stone. Likely there'll be a bunch of yellow grouped up on the other side of the sheet that maybe Reid could make a couple doubles and get away from this with a couple points, but this one needs to curl. Connor Negevin working very hard on it. Got as much curl that as he possibly could, but the Yellowstone jams on the other rock at the back of the 12-foot and actually left them sitting shot. Maybe something that Reid didn't see coming, but it is pretty big that it stayed there for shot stone. Of course, if you're Jacques, you have to, again, be very careful. If you're going to play the straight draw and ignore these two red stones, that comes with it quite a bit of risk if you don't place your rocks properly. Could play that same hit on the red that they were talking about earlier. Will likely lose one of the yellow stones, likely the one that's fully in the back of the 12, but you could remove that red from play and sit 2 or 3. Looks like they have decided on the removal of this red stone with that ice. Likely throwing quite a bit of weight to make sure that if it makes contact with that yellow at the back of the 12-foot, you're still throwing it hard enough that more than likely that red will roll out of the rings. Of course, have to be a bit more precise with the line here if you're throwing that much weight. First stone here in the fourth end coming from Skip Jacques Gauthier. Sweepers seem to like it. They like the line. Oh, maybe not quite. Ends up jamming at the back. I think just enough that they are still sitting 3. With these Yellowstones where they are, though, there is likely some kind of a double, and if Reid can make it, I mean, the triple isn't too far off either, but definitely there's a double there. If you hit this Yellowstone just slightly on the center line side, hit that yellow at the back of the 8-foot, you could make the double and leave 3 red stones sitting around the rings versus 1 yellow. Definitely an uncomfortable situation there if you're Team Gauthier. First rock here coming now from Reid Carruthers, Jason Gunlickson on the line, Derek Somogolski and Connor Negative on the broom, but really no sweeping, trying to get it to curl now. Oof. Just doesn't get that little bit of finish that maybe they needed to make the double. Removes their own red stone at the back, does remove 1 of the yellow rocks, but unfortunately leaves Team Gauthier sitting 2, and unless he's going to leave you a triple, which looks very difficult at the moment, likely going to be hard pressed to score more than 1 point here. So big opportunity missed there by Reid Carruthers. Can't remove more than 1 yellow stone, and now Jacques Gauthier trying to figure out the perfect spot to put this last rock. I think ideally, if you could just go full 8 on the center line, that chokes off most draw paths and doesn't really leave an easy nose hit for Reid to score. Likely he will always have some kind of shot to score here. You can't take everything away, but if you can put this in a really good spot, definitely ups the difficulty and the opportunity to get a miss and maybe a steal. So final stone here from Jacques Gauthier, with 1 more to come from the Carruthers team afterwards. Opportunity knocking at the door, the chance to put this in a spot to make Reid's shot very difficult. Sweepers on it early. Definitely the tolerance is to come up a little bit light here. Want to make sure you get at least a piece of the 8-foot so that you don't leave maybe a run back double for Reid if he wants to take it on. But no, they are going to come up light. Now, I think Reid's going to take a long look at this. That red stone that Reid just put in the top of the 12-foot on his last one, could you run that back on an angle to make the double on the yellows? I'm fairly certain it's there. The only question is whether or not he wants to take it on. Of course, if you miss, could be a steal of 2. This is a risk versus reward call. Likely with the situation the way it is, I don't think he would take on that risk, even if the chance is there for 3. So it wasn't a long discussion, and the way the broom came down, I think this is just a straight draw for a single point. So final stone coming now from Reid Carruthers. Needs full 8 foot to score his single point and move on to the back end of this game tied. Sweepers keeping their brooms down early. Definitely don't want to lose this stone. Seem to like the weight though. They're not panicking too much now. Connor trying to get enough curl to get it off that red stone in the top of the 12 foot. It does touch it. Oh, and maybe just lucky enough to get it into the 8 foot to cut down one of those yellow rocks, but it looks like it is a steal of one, a big steal for Jacques Gauthier. Will move into the back half of this game with a 2-point lead, although Reid Carruthers gets to keep the hammer and will look to convert that in the next end. I'm Matthew Hall. I'll take a short break here for some commercials. We'll see you again in a few minutes for the fifth end. And welcome back as we enter the fifth end of play here in this A-side matchup between Reid Carruthers and Jacques Gauthier. I'm Matthew Hall, bringing you all the action from this draw tonight. Bit of a miss by Reid Carruthers there to finish the fourth end. Had the opportunity, albeit maybe a little tricky with some rocks sitting around the rings to score his single point. Ends up just touching off a rock in the top of the 12 foot. Doesn't have enough weight after that to keep moving into the 8 foot to score a single point. So it's Jacques Gauthier coming away with the steal of one, taking a 2-point lead in the back half of this game. Maybe a bit of a miss there by Alex Horvath to start off the end, slipping into the back of the rings, close to the back of the 12 foot. Not really a rock that's all that usable if you're Jacques Gauthier to try and cut down the scoring area for Reid Carruthers. So instead gonna ask for his second stone here to be placed as a tight guard. Hopefully choke off the path to get around that corner. This one has some curling to do as well, and that's the same spot where Reid got caught with his last stone not curling enough. Maybe a little bit of a path there where the rocks are running that little bit straighter than they expect them to. Definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward. This is the first event of the year for this Reid Carruthers team. For Jacques Gauthier, it is not. They actually competed at the inaugural U25 Curling Canada event. As I try to pull up there how they did there. Ended off with a 3-2 record, so did quite well, was just not enough to make the playoffs. My apologies, a 2-3 record. So likely just dropping one extra game than they needed to have a chance at the playoffs. But I was talking to some of the teammates on the Gauthier squad this week, actually, and they said that they had a pretty good event, couple games that they definitely let slip away, ended up on the wrong side of things, but took a lot of information from it, a lot of learning, and definitely looking forward to applying what they learned in those events now here. Jason being asked to, with these corner guards, you never really want to be going around corner guards with the hammer, but really no other option here if you're Team Gauthier. Weren't able to utilize the opportunity to get up some center guards when they needed it, so wanted to keep this high in the rings, and they do. I think that's a pretty good spot. Sort of chokes off any reasonable draw around the corners. I think there might be enough that you could sink around and be shot, but in all likelihood, you probably see this slip behind the tee line if you want to get buried. And that would leave the opportunity for Jason to follow you right down again and freeze onto it. Not something you want to do. It looks like that's the call, though. I'm sure they would like to keep this at least tee line or higher if you can get this mostly buried. Maybe just a little bit of an overcurl there. Bumps that stone out of the way, which is good if you're the Carruthers team. As you can see now, you do sort of have a much straighter path to draw around that corner guard. That yellow stone that Jason threw no longer in the way. Of course, if you're Jason, I think you would like to maybe roll half buried under this guard. Definitely want to watch that jam at the back of the rings, though. So asking for this one to curl. Looks like they're going to roll the other way. Will it stick around? One more turn of the rock. It will sit down, albeit in a spot that, if you read Carruthers, you're probably not all too worried about that stone. Draw coming in from Derek Samogulski, trying to get this as buried as possible. Likely maybe slipping a couple rocks further than they would have liked. As I said before, this is dead buried, but with it slipping behind the tee line, if Team Gauthier can put a freeze on this stone, unlikely that Reid will be able to remove it at any point in the end. Will definitely cut down his scoring area. Now, there will still be the chance for two. If you think about putting some rocks down on this stone, the first one will likely be fully behind the tee line, and then if Reid follows down and makes a freeze, he'll likely be splitting the tee or just above the tee line, which would be a very good position for him. So don't count him out. Still the chance here to get something going. Sweepers seem to like this one, so the weight should be close. Perfect weight. Was worried about that over curling possibly a little bit, but I think they kept it just on a good enough of an angle that really there's no option here if you're Reid. Can't ever see a situation where he'll be able to remove that stone. But as I said, it also just slips right behind the tee line. So if Reid can lock down his own freeze and sort of just match that angle that they just put up, it's going to be very difficult for Gauthier to remove, and that could be how you set up your two. So Jason Gunlickson, big shot here that could decide how the remainder of this end ends up playing out. With the intern here following Sterling Middleton down, trying to replicate this freeze into a really good spot. This one maybe on a slightly wider path than the Gauthier team early on. If weight's good, it should curl over there, but the sweepers are backing off. And Jason Gunlickson, as you could see there, just head in his hands, frustrated. We've seen a couple misses here from Jason, just maybe not having his A game here so far in this, slipping that little bit deep, misses everything to the back of the 8-foot. Now, I think you're licking your lips a little bit if you're Jacques Gauthier, sitting shot stone with a 2-point lead against a very strong team like this. I don't think you're ever really thinking steal here reasonably yet. Of course, there is always an open draw to the button here for Reid to score, but likely pretty comfortable that Reid's gonna have to come up with some very good shots to even consider getting 2 points. Second stone coming down now by Sterling Middleton. Just bites the 4-foot. I really don't think you could have placed that rock any better than you would have liked. Now if you're Reid, might take a long look at something here. How are you going to score your 2? Taking a look at this angle run back, that's not easy. If you're off either way, one or the other, you're probably moving that situation on the T line, and very unlikely that that works out in your favor. Jason now coming down to take a look at it. Sliding back towards the hack. They might have some kind of an idea of what they want to take a run at here. Final rock here from Jason Gunlickson. In the end, runs it by everything. And oh no, I think you might be a little worried about where you rolled to if you're Jason. Probably rolled just far enough that he doesn't choke off that draw to the button for Reid, but it is very close. Really had to make sure you get some yellows moving there, but fortunately just a little bit of an overcurl runs it right by everything. Now if you're Jacques Gauthier, it's going to take quite a bit looking at this. Can't really think of a much better situation that you'd want to find yourself in if you're them. Trying to figure out where is the best place to put this stone. Now having a discussion with the rest of the team back at the other end. Really, when you think about it, this is a chance to put the game on ice. You put a couple rocks in some good spots here. Of course, it always comes down to Reid Stone. If he can make something really nice to score his single at the end, but you want to put as much pressure on him as you can. You can get him throwing against a couple. You never know, even at this level, get the odd miss here and there, you'd be able to possibly have a chance to get out of this. Still talking in the hack about where they want to place this stone. Of course, we don't have sound up in the booth here from the ice level, so not exactly sure what the discussion is. Probably you'd like to at least with this ice come down to that second shot stone at the top of the forefoot. If you can ever move it a little bit to choke off a little bit more of the rings. Probably want to keep an angle on it so that it's angled straight back onto that yellow-red combination on the tee line. This one, once again, a little bit wider, kind of following that path that Jason Gunlickson's stone went down. Sweepers don't seem to hate the weight, though. On this line, you probably don't want to bump off. Trying to get that little bit of extra curl. I think likely just got enough curl at the end there that they don't really leave too much here for Reid. Definitely didn't want to have that little bit of a bounce. I think that leaves Reid the opportunity to double out a couple of these stones to keep the pressure off on him on his last one. But think about getting a single point here in the fifth end. You're down one without in 6 with only 3 ends left to go. Not an ideal situation, but I don't really see any reasonable opportunity to take a chance at more than 1 point. Lots of discussion here. This game going a little bit slow tonight, falling behind some of the other matches that are out there. Speaking of the other matches, give you guys a quick rundown of what we're seeing on the other sheets. Team Epping with a 4-2 lead over Dunham in the 6th end of play. That is another A-side game. Team Yanagisawa facing off against Ryan Wiebe in their A semifinal. Yanagisawa holds a 1-0 lead in the 6th end. You can probably see in the corner of our feed here, they've blanked 4 ends in their game. Dallin Myers with a 4-2 lead over Riley Fenson. Mike McEwen with a 3-3 tie with Ryland Kleider in the 4th end. And Michael Brenner with a 3-1 lead over Kyler Klybring. They're in the 6th end of play. So first stone here coming from Reid Carruthers in the 5th end of play here in Leduc. Attempting to remove 2 of these yellow stones, open up the opportunity to give himself a chance to score here with his last. Maybe not as much weight as I expected to see. Probably trying to keep his shooter around in a place where he might be able to bring it in to score. Makes contact with the second stone. Gets it rolling out of the rings, but rolls his shooter all the way to the side of the 12-foot. Very unlikely that he'll get the opportunity to bring that into play. Have to maybe be a little bit careful if you're Jacques Gauthier. Can Reid see enough of that yellow stone in the 8-foot to make the straight back double? I don't think so. So likely you're just going to see some kind of draw to the top 12. It looks like Sterling likes. Maybe they're not quite in agreement whether or not Reid can make that double on the side of the sheet. Looks very close, but I think it is just buried enough. You're probably jamming it if you take a crack at it. Having another lengthy discussion here. It looks like they've decided on this quote unquote guard. Probably want to come to the top of the 12-foot if you can to choke off as many as the draw paths as possible. Now Jacques coming down to take another look at it. In all likelihood, Reid's probably going to have something here. to score is 1. I double might be there. I don't think it is, but he's always going to have a shot to score 1. You can't take away everything, so try to just put this stone in whatever spot makes that one the most difficult for Reid. I think if you're trying to find that, that's probably the short angle tap that he could make to the 4-foot on that rock top right side of the 12-foot. So if you could take away all the draw paths here and force him to throw that, that's probably your best opportunity to come out of this with a steal. Final stone here from Jacques Gauthier, trying to turn on the pressure cooker on Team Carruthers. Sweepers seem to like it, maybe coming up a little bit shorter once again than they would have liked. I think the straight draw to the button is there for Reid. Would have liked to see that rock maybe go even 2 feet further. This is probably a lot more difficult. It's a tight hole on both sides, but the opportunity is there to score your single point for sure. They're really not taking any look at that double on the other side, so they are probably convinced that it's not there either.
Yeah, it's not much time.
It's like they've decided on just straight drawing through that hole to the button. Big shot here. Still a couple ends to go, but I don't think it's a big stretch to say this could be a game saver to make this one. Final stone here in the 5th end, coming from Reid Carruthers. Samagulski on the left, Negevin on the right. Haven't really laid a broom to this for weight. Need it to curl off that stone in the 12-foot again. He'll just rub it. Does not roll far enough. It'll be another steal of 1 for Jacques Gauthier to take a 4-1 lead. I'm Matthew Hall. Once again, we'll break here just for a little bit for commercials. I'll see you on the other side. Take you into the 6th end of play. And welcome back from the Leduc Recreation Center. My name is Matthew Hall, bringing you all the action from this draw tonight, this A-side tilt between Reid Carruthers and Jacques Gauthier. As we saw the last two ends in a row, Jacques Gauthier coming up with single-point steals from difficult last rock draws from Reid Carruthers. Just not being able to find the forefoot with either one of them, always sort of running a little bit straighter, wrecking on that stone top of the 12-foot. So it is a 4-1 lead for Jacques Gauthier here with 3 ends remaining of play. Alex Horvath with a great stone, top of the 4-foot to start, now being asked to throw another guard on that after Reid decided to throw the corner guard. And so I think the question becomes here, if you're Jacques Gauthier, when can you start sort of, not necessarily running away, but when do you start being comfortable with just walking up and attempting to just quietly peel some guards? I'm not entirely sure we're quite there. If it was one more point of a lead for Jacques Gauthier, you'd likely just see him calmly stepping up and peeling red rocks and giving Reid the opportunity to take his two if he'd like. That being said, pressure is definitely on this Carruthers team. They're the one that's going to have to push the envelope, try to force some uncomfortable situations for both sides if they want to try and generate multiple points. After two very good draws by Alex Horvath, it's now Jason Ginter throwing the intern guard here. Would like to get this nice and tight, even with those two other red guards, so that if Reid ever does make a run back, he is grouping up his guards in a place where you might be able to make a double peel. Pardon me, overcurling slightly, so it does give some access here to the shot stone for Reid. Looks like the call was to try and bump the shot stone back a little bit. Try to stay as close to nose as you possibly can, so it's not an easy removal for Team Gauthier. Derek Samagalski, of course, a long time veteran, you might be able to call him now, out of Manitoba. This one, very light, overcurls by a lot. And that's just sort of been the tail of the tape here for this Carruthers squad. Some uncharacteristic misses on their end. These 4 players are well experienced. You wouldn't expect to maybe see them struggle this much. But just one of those days where they can't seem to get a handle on figuring out weight and line at the same time. That one coming up well light and overcurling. So now another opportunity for Jason Ginter to draw around again, sit 3, put all the pressure on Team Carruthers, excuse me. You don't have to be in the rings here. Even a tight guard does the job. Keep 2 center guards up, and Reid will have to waste rocks trying to deal with that rather than setting himself up for a multiple score. Second stone now coming from Derek Samagalski, trying to get as many yellow rocks moving as he can, but just runs it by that second guard. Keeps pretty much the entire mess up there for Team Gauthier. Taking a look at if there's a port there that Reid might be able to make a hit on. It looks like they think there is, so they're going to toss up a guard, block that tight hole. Want this in line with that yellow stone in the top 12. Make sure you guard that. Even if you leave that center guard wide open, Reid running that back I don't think is something you're necessarily worried about if you're Team Gauthier. So first stone here by Sterling Middleton. Sterling, of course, three-time Canadian junior champion with Tyler Tardy for those back-to-back-to-back years. Alex Horvath was on that last Canadian and World Junior Championship team as well, but all that experience doesn't help them get this rock over the hog line. Comes up right, hogs it. The rock is pulled off and leaves that hole there, albeit it is very difficult for the Carruthers squad, but definitely didn't want to give them the opportunity to make this. This is the first event here for this Carruthers team, so likely just trying to shake off a little bit of that summer rust. I know they've had ice for quite a while, I believe, in Manitoba. So they have been able to practice, but getting that first competition under your belt can always be a little shaky. Jason Gunlickson coming down now, trying to make it through the hole with big weight. Gets through, gets one, gets two. Yellowstones fly out, and it leaves Reid Carruthers sitting a single shot in the top of the 12-foot. Not really getting any roll there, so you could maybe see Jacques follow them down through that hole. Instead, just going to play the straight come around. I think this is a fine call too. It's difficult to tell with the camera angle, but it all depends on whether or not you think they could run that redstone back onto you. If you could get on the button and there's really no way for Reid to angle run that redstone and stick it in behind the guard, then you're probably okay with this call. Ducks team able to get that draw deep enough to sit shot stone. Question remains if there's something here for the Carruthers team. I don't think you can make any play on that redstone Jason just threw to reasonably keep both your reds around. Possibly looking at if there's any kind of run back that could help them. And there is on this right-hand side. Of course, if you ever stuck it right on that Yellowstone the Gauthier team just threw, would leave the straight run back for Jacques, but if he ever doesn't make it, you'd have a chance to take a few points. Get yourself back into this. Very precise shot, though. This is not easy by any means. excellent shot there by Jason Gunlickson. Sticks that angle run back behind the guard, although, as I said, leaves Gauthier with the opportunity to play this run back. Likely, if you could hit it perfect, you can make the double. But I think even if you see one of those red stones go away, Jacques Gauthier will be very happy with that result. He's not necessarily all that worried about giving up a 2 here. With only 2 ends to play, and he'd be up 1 with the hammer. Very good spot. Misses the run back there. But again, fairly straightforward double. For Jacques Gauthier on his second one if Reid doesn't deal with this. Albeit, how do you deal with it in a way that doesn't leave a double? I'm not really certain. You could likely move one of those stones around. It's difficult to tell if you hit them on the nose if your shooter will be in the rings. We'll take a long look at this though, try and figure it out. If there is a way, of course, easy double there if you just leave it alone and roll to the other, draw to the other side of the rings. So you have to do something if you want a reasonable chance at a 3 here. But it's very difficult to see you splitting all these stones far enough apart to not leave Jacques something. Still having some discussions with this, but now Reid Carruthers finds himself in the hack, preparing to throw his rock. Not 100% sure what they were able to go with. If I had to guess, likely trying to maybe move that stone on the center line, push it back as far as they can in the rings and roll their shooter to the open side. That's probably their best opportunity to come out of this with the chance to score more than 2. Derek Samagalski on this early, trying to hold the line. The weight that they're likely throwing, you definitely want to make sure you get this on an angle so you're rolling your shooter. Seem to like it. Push that first stone back, roll the shooter, and that's probably as good as you could do. without taking on too much risk. Definitely leaves a chance here for Jacques Gauthier. I'm not 100% convinced. Oh, it's very close for the triple. You hit these two reds on the left side as we look on the overhead. If you hit the first one over the top of the second one, I think the triple might be there. Probably not if you make the straight back double. Jacques going to take a good crack at it. Definitely have a couple options to make at least a double here, which I think is what you want to do if you're Jacques. The final rock here in the sixth end, facing three with a 3-point lead is Jacques Gauthier, wanting to keep this lead intact, trying to remove as many red stones as he can. Sweepers, Jason Ginter on it early, trying to hold the line. Does he got it? Doesn't quite have the triple, but he makes two reds go away. Big sigh of relief, I think, if you're the Gauthier squad. He's able to move out of this with at least the lead in the game. Reid Carruthers with the open draw here to score his second point as he comes down to the hack. Final stone here in the sixth end coming from Reid Carruthers. Just needs any piece of the house for his second point to cut the lead down to 1. Sweepers like it, watch it into the rings, and he will get what he needs. So it is 2 points here for Reid Carruthers. He'll cut Jacques Gauthier's lead to a single point, but Jacques, I think you're pretty happy moving on to the seventh end. 1 point lead, up 4-3 with the hammer. We'll take a quick commercial break. I'll see you on the other side. We are back in the seventh end of play here. Jacques Gauthier with a 1 point lead and the hammer over team Reid Carruthers. Carruthers wasting no time, of course, throwing up the center guard. So Alex Horvath being asked to place a good draw behind, top of the forefoot. I think in all likelihood, you'll see Reid here try to utilize two center guards. If you think about what his path to victory here might be, even if he is able to force Jacques Gauthier, get his 2 and 8, still has to steal the extra. So likely he's going to have to see a steal at some point here. Alex Horvath coming up a little light on that draw, but does get a piece of the rings to sit shot stone. Of course, if you steal this end 1, you'll have to steal again in the 8th end. So argument could be made there that that could be trickier than going down 2 and trying to get your 3 with the 5 rock rule. Haven't seen the 5 rock rule really come into play yet this game, but as we get into the later ends, it will certainly become a factor. And I think teams have become very adept at being able to defend against that. But definitely something they'll have to think about. Of course, as I said, Reid throwing up the second center guard. See that move, guard moved over just that little bit by the Gauthier team. And this rock, not entirely sure what the asked for plan was there, possibly just way over curling that second guard. We'll likely see here Reid will try to keep some center guards up for as long as he can before he's forced to go around into the rings. With that rock over curling though, Jason Ginter will have the chance to at least move this off the center line. Even if he doesn't make a double peel, getting everything off the center line will likely result in a happy Jacques Gauthier. In-turn peel coming now from Jason Ginter. Sterling Middleton on the sweep. Makes one, makes two. Redstone rolling. Will get out of play. So an excellent double peel there by Jason Ginter. Clears up the front. Now you got to be careful if you're Reid Carruthers. Of course, those stones just biting the top of the 12-foot look to be dead frozen. So if you try to go around them, it'll likely be a very easy run back for Sterling or Jacques. For the moment, though, likely just going to try and waste some more time, throwing up a couple guards, forcing Jacques to walk up and peel them before he decides to make his move. The earlier he comes into the rings here really just means the more opportunity he's giving to the Gauthier team to blast everything and really make it very simple. Of course, with that yellow stone on the other side of the 12-foot, it's not the easiest draw to the 4-foot in the world for Jacques, and Reid would like to keep it that way. Jacques himself wouldn't even mind getting rid of possibly one of those stones on either side of the center line to open things up for himself. I think either scoring or even if you give up a steal of one, you're probably not too upset if you're Jacques Gauthier. Of course, you give up a steal, you'll be tied with the hammer, which is a good situation. I think most games, if you skip the opportunity to be tied with the hammer in the last end, they'll likely take that. Middleton makes the peel, sees the rock removed, and now Reid maybe taking a second here to think about what he wants to do with his stone. How early does he want to make this move? Might just be at least a rock too early to make the straight draw, but can you ever rearrange those stones that are sort of frozen just at the top of the 12, get them into a better situation for yourself? It's difficult to say because if you try to do that, you'll likely be grouping stones together, leave a pretty easy double peel for them. So if I was Reid, I'd probably take a long look at that center guard, just tossing up another one. The situation here, you're probably not getting a steal unless you get a tough miss out of Jacques Gauthier with one of his last two rocks. So likely just waste some time here, throw up the center guard, come around later and try and find the best spot to sit in where Jacques can't get to it, but it's going to be difficult. Make the center guard once again. Sterling Middleton attempting to come up with another peel. Keep everything open for Jacques Gauthier. Looking forward, once again, the winner of this game will move to an A final. Of course, with the triple knockout, you'll have plenty of opportunities to get yourself into the playoffs if you win this game. I believe you'll just have to win one of your next 3 games after this to qualify into the top 8. Loser of this game, I believe, will likely have to win at least 3 more games to get themselves qualified. So not only does this game mean a lot in terms of positioning, but in terms of how much you're going to have to play over the next 24 to 48 hours just to get yourself into the playoffs. Want to get there with plenty of rest if you can. It's going to be an uphill climb here for Reid Carruthers as Jason Gunlickson attempts to draw around, but just a little bit over curled. Touches that guard. Top of the 12-foot and rolls into the open. Now, if you're Jacques Gauthier, the chance to sit 3 here. You want to take a second to think about exactly where you want to roll this stone, but probably not too many bad places you can go, honestly. Likely if you just stick right there on the nose, that's pretty good. There won't really be anywhere for Reid to run and hide. Of course, you could always roll off to the side as well, keep the center open. Really just anywhere sticking in the ring, sitting 3, I think does the job. So Sterling coming down with his last shot here in this 7th end, makes the hit, sticks right there on the center line, and it is Jacques Gauthier sitting 3, and no simple path into the button here, or anywhere really for Reid Carruthers to go and hide. Could likely make a hit and roll somewhere off that block Sterling just threw, but there's going to be almost no separation for a short run back for Team Gauthier. And the decision was made that they will hit this stone that Sterling just threw. Likely the thought may be if you end up nosing this and Jacques noses back with his first one, you might be able to play a wide draw around somewhere, try to sink to the back of the 8-foot to make the run back as difficult as possible on Team Gauthier. Looks like maybe getting a little bit of a roll in under the other side, but rolls maybe a bit too far into the open. So it's going to be a wide open hit here for Jacques, and nowhere really to hide. You'd think the best place to hide if you're Reid Carruthers might be around those two frozen rocks if they were a little bit more staggered, but pretty close to a nose freeze, so it should be a very easy straight run back for him, you would imagine. Of course, no real harm with rolling anywhere as long as you don't roll somewhere half buried. That would give Reid the opportunity to draw somewhere hidden. You're going to take this hit on, I think a nose hit would likely be fine. Roll to the center line open would be fine. Roll all the way across, that would be good. Plenty of options here for Jacques, even if, say, you hit and rolled out, still sitting two, really nowhere to hide for Reid. The first stone here from Jacques Gauthier. Sitting 2-3, hoping to remove shot stone, sit 3, put all the pressure and possibly the game on Reid's last stone coming up. Sweepers on it most of the way, makes the hit, sticks around on the nose. Pretty happy there for the Gauthier team. And now where do you go? I think if you're Reid, you got to draw around something. Like I said, with those two rocks frozen near the center line, if you try and hide around that, it's pretty much queued up that it's a much more difficult run back to miss. Instead, I think he's going to try and draw to the other side around this single yellow stone. Don't want to try and put this in what would normally be a good spot, top of the forefoot, because that just ends up making Jacques' run back easier. I think what you want to do here is try and sink in as deep as possible, like back of the 8 foot. Just make sure that Jacques can't follow you around for a tap. If he's going to take on the shot for multiple scores, probably want him to try that run back. If he ever misses, he gives up the steal. At any point here, if regardless of what shot it is, if Jacques wants to take on the shot for multiple points, if he makes it, it'll likely be the game. So really want to make this as difficult as possible. Sweeper's not touching it early. Now they're maybe on it with a little bit of confidence. Connor Negevin as they come into the overhead. Samagalski on the left, Negevin on the right, trying to hold this line a little bit. Get it by, they do. It will slip to the back of the 8 foot. Question is, did it over curl? I think it might have just had that little bit too much weight. I think the opportunity is there for a lightweight in-turn tap for Jacques Gauthier. It looks like he's not even going to necessarily take that on with that kind of broom. He's probably just throwing a lot of weight to pick it out and take his 3. Whatever you're really comfortable with in this spot, if it's not one you've thrown and you don't know that hack waiter, this is probably the smarter option. Really taking 3 or taking 4 doesn't necessarily make a big difference here. If you're Team Gauthier, you're likely coming out of this game as victors either way. So whatever shot is easier, he'll take on the pick for his 3 points. Final stone now coming in the 7th end, the chance to put this game to bed. Jacques Gauthier. Jason Ginter sweeping on the left, Alex Horvath on the right. Staying very close out of his hand. Some easy sweeps early. Now they're on it hard, trying to hold this line. And they're cleaning it, so they seem to like it. He will make contact, remove that red stone, score his 3 points and the victory as Reid Carruthers concedes the game to Jacques Gauthier. Score of 3. Jacques will take a 7-3 win over Reid Carruthers and move on to the A final. Reid will drop down to the B side. He will play the winner of Michael Brunner and Kyler Kleibrink, and I will just quickly check that score before we sign off. They are in their final end. Brunner with the 2-point lead. My name is Matthew Hall, coming to you from Leduc, the Leduc Recreation Center and the Curling Stadium. Alberta Curling Series Major Men's Tournament. Signing off for the night. We will see you tomorrow for all the curling action. You can check out every game for the games that are still going on. You can jump over to any of the games that are live on the Curling Zone YouTube page. For now, thank you for having me. Have a good night.